I had these 3 Filipino boys, teenagers, that came up and bought a picture standing with me, and they came about chest high on me. And some idiot in the back of the room yelled, "Turn around and take a bite." And oh, I saw red. I was furious. I would have risked going to jail for assault and walked back there and slapped the guy if I'd have known which one had said it. I was really mad. Here comes breakfast, and you better eat it, you little turkey. I stopped at the store just for you. Here's Shelby. Come on. Get down there and eat your food. That's for you. Come on, over here. She's getting too much attention. That's. She's my good buddy, huh? She's my good buddy. I just wish she wasn't such a bed hog. She likes to sleep with me at night, and so does the cat. The trouble with her is that instead of sleeping this way on the bed, she sleeps this way on the bed. So I got her on one side and the cat on the other side, and about this much room to turn over, you know? We need a double king-size bed, don't we? I still probably wouldn't have any room. Wow, you might get to be on TV. Ooh, you could be famous. Yeah, you could be famous. Would anybody like some coffee? I was working for the city, and good old Mayor Steve Goldsmith, had his government cutbacks and laid off a bunch of people, and I got it. Come on, Shelvers. Now this chair here, thank goodness it's as big as it is, because half of it is mine and half of it is hers.
Did someone make it for you?
Yeah, Richard Bennett Furniture here in town. Went to the Byrne Furniture Company down in Byrne, Indiana. Can you jump it? Can you jump? Oh. This is part of your chair, isn't it? And she doesn't like it when the cat gets up here either.
How tall are you?
7 feet 7 1/4 inches tall. A good friend of mine, the local business and professional women's club that I belong to, asked me a few weeks ago how tall I was. We got talking about it, and I told her I was 6 feet 19 inches tall, and she said, "Oh, are you getting shorter?" And this lady works at a credit union.
Great. Big with math. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like to be so tall?
It has its ups and downs. Most of the problems I run into, I've been able to work my way around. I've got a custom-made bed, and this chair, of course, was custom-made for me, so I'm quite comfortable in those. When I go out of the apartment, I usually take my wheelchair with me because, for instance, in restaurants, it gets a little embarrassing if the chair breaks and I end up having to eat dessert while I'm sitting on the floor, you know. I did have a chair break on me one night playing bingo, and I hurt my back really bad. So I just don't trust anybody else's chairs anymore. I just as soon sit in my wheelchair. I can walk short distances, but I can walk. It's just that having such a high rate of growth hormone for so many years weakened my muscles. And I'm now on a medication called Sandostatin that I have to inject 3 times a day. And that's supposed to reduce my growth hormone rate so that it won't continue to damage my muscles. What I was basically worried about, the doctor didn't say anything, but the heart is a muscle. And I was a little worried about that. So I take that medication. Thank goodness for health insurance, because that runs about $3,000 a month for a 1-month prescription. But I encounter, like I said, lots of aggravations, but I don't let it stop me. I live a pretty normal life. I manage to get my vacuuming done, and I do my own laundry, and as much as I can for myself. I've got a young friend that's about 15. His name is Aaron, and he comes and helps me when I go to do my groceries because he can load and unload the wheelchair and I can't. It's too heavy for me. And if I have to go to a shopping mall, Aaron likes to come with me and He pushes me around and we do what we have to do. Advantages are few. I'm good at painting ceilings. Just put a hat on my head with a roller and all I have to do is walk back and forth and paint the ceiling. Or I can change light bulbs in the ceiling fixtures without a problem. A real hazard to my health is these darned overhead ceiling fans. I have to watch out for those. A lot of restaurants have them nowadays, and I have to be careful when I'm going in because if they're running, it's a cheap way to get a haircut, I guess.
Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about work. Until recently, you were a secretary?
Yes, I worked for the city of Indianapolis in the Department of Public Works, environmental management. It was interesting work, but due to government cutbacks, they laid me off. So, in a way, I'm kind of glad because it gives me the opportunity to make more appearances. I've been making a lot of appearances at schools, talking to school classes and groups and church youth groups and library appearances. I love working with the kids. Sometimes I think I get more intelligent questions out of them than I do out of most adults I've met.
What kind of things do kids ask you?
Oh, they always want to know, how tall are you, how old are you, how much do you weigh, how much do you eat? And usually I tell them, well, I don't eat too much. For breakfast this morning, I only had 3 short people. And the front line moves clear to the back of the room. They're always interested in how big my shoes are, and I wear a size 22 shoe. I was really lucky to...
I think we just ran out of film. You were talking a little bit about the kinds of appearances that you make. Tell me, what's your message when you talk to kids?
Well, I tell them about what it was like for me growing up, getting through school. Grade school was pretty bad. Junior high and high school was even worse because of the boys teasing me. If I'd come around the corner and run into somebody, they'd overreact and calling me names, and nobody seemed to want to have anything to do with me just because I was tall. Obviously, I didn't get to go to any of the social events, none of the proms, none of the dances, nothing like that, because there was no boy in school that was going to take a girl out to a dance that was 2 feet taller than he was. And I also try to teach them that just because somebody's different, it's no reason to make fun of them or to laugh at them or point at them and make them feel bad. And that if we treat our friends like we'd like to be treated, we'd all get along a lot better. And that's basically the message I'm trying to get across. I used to ask them if any of them knew what the golden rule was. And I was sorry to see that a lot of kids didn't. I was afraid someday some kid was going to pop up and say, do unto others before they do unto you. I think that might be the time I'm going to throw it all up in the air and quit. But I get a kick out of working with the kids. And I think they enjoy it too.
A long time ago, I guess, you used to work in the Guinness Museum?
I worked for about 8 years in the Guinness Museum up in Niagara Falls on the Canadian side. But I got kind of tired of it because to me it was becoming a glorified freak show, and I didn't like it.
Did you feel uncomfortable just exhibiting yourself without a message or something?
Well, I did give a talk. They kept me behind a closed folding door that was locked in a little cubicle. And then about every hour or every 45 minutes, they would make an announcement in the museum and gather all the people in what we called the Human Being Gallery. And I would give a talk to them about myself and some of the problems in my life and that kind of thing. And then if I had a friendly audience, I would ask them if they had any questions. That's what I enjoyed doing, more answering questions from people. And then I would stand so that people with cameras could take photos of me, and then we sold pictures, Polaroids that were taken with me, standing beside people. And there were times when it was a lot of fun. We'd get some nice groups in there. But then there were times when, for instance, toward the end of my stay, I had these 3 Filipino boys, teenagers, that came out and bought a picture standing with me, and they came about chest high on me. and some idiot in the back of the room yelled, "Turn around and take a bite." And I saw red. I was furious. I would have risked going to jail for assault and walked back there and slapped the guy if I'd have known which one had said it. I was really mad because it embarrassed those boys terribly. I wasn't embarrassed, but I felt bad for them. And there was no need for that guy to say that. But I've been asked everything from how's your sex life to how do you sit on the toilet, so I'm accustomed to getting all sorts of different questions.
And does people's curiosity about you, do you think that's just human nature that we want to see?
Oh, of course. A lot of people are afraid to come out and talk to me. I guess they're afraid that, I don't know, maybe they'll ask the wrong thing or say the wrong thing and they don't want to upset me. But I would rather people would come out and talk to me than stand back and look at me like I came from Mars. I want people to understand that I'm just as human as they are, and by talking with these people, some people say that they're encouraged by my attitude, and that's basically what I'm out there trying to do. If I can just help even one person in their attitude in life, then it's worth it.
Besides the Guinness Museum, you never worked in like the circus or carnival sideshows.
No.
Is there a particular reason?
Well, I hate to say this because I know that there are people that work in the sideshows, but I don't like them. To me, they're degrading, but maybe it's just the ones I've seen. We used to go to the C&E in Toronto when I lived up Niagara Falls, and like there was this one big fat guy that they had sitting down in a pit, and people paid to come and walk around and look down at him. There wasn't any human contact there. Sure, he was fat, but that didn't make him any less a human being than any of those other people that paid to walk around and look at him. I wouldn't do it. I bet I wasn't on the grounds 5 minutes before the guy that ran those exhibitions came up and asked me if I would come to work for him. And just as a joke, I wasn't serious. I said, well, I'm working for Guinness right now, and they pay me $50,000 a year. If you can top that. Well, he was gone in no time at all. He wasn't willing to pay. I wouldn't have done it if he'd have given me $100,000 a year. Didn't matter. Although, like I said, there are people that do it and enjoy it, and I'm not putting them down for that. You know, to each his own. If that's what they want to do, or maybe they have to do because they can't do anything else, fine. But to me, it was it would just seem too degrading. I wouldn't have any self-respect left.
What else? I mean, I guess when you just go out to the grocery store, people must sort of stare at you. Does that ever bother you?
Doesn't bother me. The funny thing is, I've got a friend that lives in Toronto, and she's got red hair and a temper to match. And one night we were invited to go and see a documentary that Harry Rasky had produced called Being Different. And we went up, and I invited Roseanne to come and see it with me because she lived right there in Toronto. And after it was over, we went down the street to a pizza place, and we were sitting in there, and some guy at the bar was apparently staring at me and was doing it a little too openly to suit Roseanne. I had to practically tie her down to the seat to keep her from going over and plugging the guy. Didn't bother me at all. I don't pay any attention to it. Now, I understand why most people stare. Is because they've probably never seen anybody as big as I am. I don't realize how much taller I am than other people until I see photos of me taken with people. When I used to work in the museum, I might be sitting there. If we weren't busy, I didn't do shows. I just chatted with the people as they came through, and I might be sitting there holding a can of Coke or Pepsi, and they'd come up and they'd say, "Is that a regular size can?" And I didn't realize it must have looked so much smaller in my large hands. And kids, even adults, are always commenting on how big my hands are and how big my feet are. But then I turn around and ask them, if I had feet the size of yours on a body this big, how in the world would I get around? Everything is what's the word I'm looking for? Is in proportion. Had a blank
What size
there.
shoe do you wear?
I wear a size 22, and I was really fortunate to find a place down in Vincennes, Indiana that can make my shoes for me. Actually, I didn't find them. Some people that lived in Shelbyville, where I grew up, had a child that needed some corrective shoes made. And they happened to go down there one day to get her shoes made and saw this huge shoe on display in their store window. And they thought of me immediately and brought me up to the owners, and that's how I came to be able to get my shoes made. Now, they're limited in the styles they can make. They're not the most stylish looking shoes you ever saw, but I'm just glad to have something on my feet. I do get my tennis shoes from the Indiana Pacers. I was really lucky to find that Rick Smits and I wear the same size tennis shoe. So I got 3 or 4, I think 4 or 5 pairs of Reeboks from the Pacers. And they're pretty comfortable, although I think I'd really rather wear Shaq's shoes because Shaquille O'Neal has a bigger foot even than Rick and I do. And his feet are wider. And these tennis shoes take a while to break them in. It puts the squeeze on my foot. I've got at least a triple E, if not wider, foot. So it's a little bit uncomfortable until I get the shoes broken in.
Let me ask you, do you think that people who look different are any different from anyone else?
No. They have feelings too. That's why people don't stop to think.
Try to give me a full sentence. Don't just say they. Tell me people who look different or something.
People that look different have got feelings too. It's just that it seems like John Q. Public doesn't stop to consider that. I found that a lot in dealing with the public. But I love working with the public and with people, and so I don't get all upset about it. I enjoy it very much.
What else do you know about like the other famous giants in history? Have you studied them? Are you interested in that?
Robert Wadlow, of course, was the tallest human being in recorded history, and he was 8 feet 11 inches tall, which could make me look short, and that's not easy to do. There was a lady in China to whom I temporarily lost my record back in about the middle 80s. And she was 8 feet 1 inch tall when she died at the age of 16. I would have loved to have met her. I don't know, through an interpreter, I'm sure we could have conversed, but she had severe scoliosis and couldn't, from what I hear, she couldn't stand up on her own. She had to lean on someone or something for support. And from what I read about her, she died from diabetes. But I think it's a shame they couldn't do something to help her. I played a little bit of girls basketball in the 8th and 9th grades. By that time I was about 7'1". I wasn't very good, I'm sorry to say, because I was so much bigger than the girls we played against. I was afraid to get too physical because I was afraid I'd hurt somebody. But they didn't hesitate to climb up one side of me and down the other. I guess they figured because I was so big they were really going to go at me. And then the referee was constantly blowing the whistle on me for something that I probably wasn't even doing. And I got tired of that, so I quit playing. And it was about that time that I developed a problem with my left knee. And we found there was a tumor on my knee, and one side of my knee was growing faster than the other. So it made my leg grow sort of crooked, which has also affected my back a little bit. So that more or less put an end to my basketball career as a player, but I'm an avid fan. I love the Pacers and the Indiana University Hoosiers.
Let me ask you, do you have to make your own clothes? Where do you find your clothes?
Most of my clothes I used to have made. And then, of course, I took some tailoring classes in high school and learned how to do my own sewing. But a friend of mine found a shop here in Indianapolis called The Place. And that's where I bought my blouse. I can get some dresses there and skirts, which really blew me away when they told me that they had clothes. Of course, on a normal array, an average sized person, my skirts and my dresses would come all the way down to their ankles, but they come up to just above my knees. My major problem is getting hose to fit me. I can't get pantyhose, obviously, without the crotch hanging down between my knees. So I buy thigh highs, which don't come up to my thighs. They barely come above my knees. So that's a bit of an aggravation I haven't been able to conquer yet. I don't know if I could find a pantyhose company that would be willing to custom make some for me, or if they did, whether I could afford them. Because a lot of times, you know, when you have to get something custom made, then they jack the price up sky high.
Something that you said a minute ago, I just heard you say if you get a house custom made. What if that is that your dream? And if you sometime did, what are the things that you would change about a house?
My dream in life is to get a house custom built for me with nice wide doorways so I can get through the doorways with my wheelchair, no stairs, and a big bathtub. I would love to have a big bathtub. One time when I was in London, England for an appearance for Guinness, I literally got stuck in the bathtub in my hotel room. And I didn't think I was going to make it out. I thought they were going to have to do the interview right there in the bathtub. But after I sat in the water for a while and shriveled up a little bit, I was able to get out. But it was very upsetting, so now I'm real careful. In fact, when I got this apartment, the first thing I did, I threw my coat off, went into the bathroom, and got into the tub with all my clothes on. Ended up coming out with soap scum all over me, but I didn't care because before I took the apartment, I had to make sure I was going to fit in the bathtub. Showers are no good to me. They hit me right in the belly button. I don't mess with showers. But that's what I'd like to get, and something maybe with the countertops in the kitchen built up higher. I use my wheelchair a lot in the kitchen because if I had to stand at the sink and do dishes in that position, it'd just absolutely kill my back. And the same thing with standing at the stove or getting into the lower cupboards. It's easier.
Do you ever wish that you had a more ordinary life?
There have been times when I've wished that I had a more ordinary life, but in a way, to me, a lot of times I get kids that ask me if I'm proud of my size, and I am very proud of my size. To me, to wish I was shorter is negative thinking. I've got to take what the good Lord gave me and make the best of it. And I have always felt that there must have been a special reason why I was this tall. And as I said earlier, if I can help somebody else out by showing them the right attitude, then that makes it all worthwhile. I would enjoy that.
You've been on TV a lot. Can you tell us how many times and what you've been on?
Been on lots of television talk shows. Phil Donahue was probably one of the earliest. David Frost used to do a Guinness Book of Records special years ago, back in the 70s. That was the first TV show I was on. I've been on Oprah and Montel Williams and Lisa. I just got back from New York taping Maury Povich and Jerry Springer. Just quite a few of them. They're a lot of fun.
This is a question that we've asked a lot of people that we've been interviewing, and I want to ask you how you feel about the word freak. Is that an awful word to you, or?
I met a fella on the Phil Donahue show that wrote a book. I can't remember his name, and I can't even remember the name of the book now. But it was about freaks. And his idea was that if anybody should be considered a freak, we all should be considered one. All of us are different in some way or another. And if that's what you think constitutes a freak, then so be it. But I've never liked the word. I don't consider myself a freak. I'm just as human as anybody else. If you cut my finger, blood's going to be just as red. If anybody was to walk up to me and call me one, I might be tempted to punch them because I don't consider myself a freak at all, and I really don't like the word.
Have you ever had someone in the audience really make you angry, or have you ever gotten into a confrontation with someone from an audience?
Well, I had one lady ask me how I sat on the toilet, and it ticked me off a little bit. And I can't remember what I said to her, but I embarrassed her so badly that she walked out of the room. She didn't even stay in the room. But it was a pretty stupid question to begin with. Come on, how do you sit on the toilet? Very carefully. I've been known to crack a few seats, so what? But questions like that sort of tick me off, and people should have a little more intelligence than to ask something like that. But then you have to deal with the bad and with the good when you work in the public. And you haven't worked with anybody until you've worked with tourists, I'm telling you.
Really? Tourists are the ones?
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. So I understand you met Michael Jackson.
Yes, I met Michael Jackson out in San Francisco when they had a grand opening of the Guinness Museum out there. Very nice guy. I enjoyed talking with him. In fact, when he came into the museum out there, I was sitting in a chair toward the end of the museum just talking to people as they exited. And Michael came up with this older gentleman named Bill. And he was dressed very casually, had a sun visor on and blue jeans and the whole bit. And he came up, and after we had chatted for a couple of minutes, he sort of shyly introduced himself. He said, "My name's Michael Jackson." And I looked him up and down a couple of times. I said, "The Michael Jackson?" And he sort of giggled and said, "Yes." I said, "Sure, and I'm going to be the next president of the United States." It took him several minutes to convince me he was who he was. But after that, he came back a couple of nights in a row, and we sat and chatted. Of course, he's from Indiana, from northern Indiana, up in Gary. And I really enjoyed meeting him. I found him to be a very nice person. I didn't think to mention what had caused my height. As you can see, my mother's quite average in size, and my brother is about 6 feet tall.
And Darlene's small.
My sister Darlene's built like my grandmother was. Tiny, small-boned. She's a pretty small person. In fact, she's on the back of this video that we're selling called "It's Okay to Be Different." But I had a tumor in my pituitary gland, and it caused the gland to overproduce growth hormone, but they didn't find this out till I was about 19 or 20, and by then I'd already quit growing. Story of my life, a day late and a dollar short, but at least they found it. And I had brain surgery done twice to remove the tumor, otherwise I might have gone blind. So I'm glad that's all over with.